Good evening. This is the Natrona County Parks Board Advisory Board meeting of Thursday, January 12th, 2023. We do not have a quorum here, so we won't be doing any official board business, but we would still like to have the Parks Director give his update. And we'll also have public comments at the end, just in case we have any public that wants to communicate with us. So with that, we might as well do the Pledge of Allegiance at least. So, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So, Michael, how about you tell us what's going on in the Parks Department?
All right. There's a lot going on, but most of them pretty simple. The Casper Mountain Trail Center, a.k.a. the Nordic Lodge, the architect's working on full design there. The county is providing input for IT requirements such as security cameras, remote door locks, things of that, the trail cams, where we want to put those. Additional geotech investigation was done, and so they're looking into that a little bit, trying to maybe do some grading to minimize the amount of fill that they're looking at having to do underneath the building foundation. But yeah, it's coming along. The goal is to hopefully have bid documents and be able to bid early April, late March. That way we can get them going as soon as the snow clears, probably in June. The bear trap shelters, as you know, we did not receive the Wyoming Outdoor Rec Grant. So in my bid, or in my budget, I have funding for one shelter construction, so we're preparing the bid documents for the east shelter only. So that should be coming out, and we'll be bidding that probably in March, so that they can get scheduled to kind of fit the summer timeline. The only thing we want to avoid is the music festival.
Yep. With
the construction, or shut it down for that. Rotary Park, obviously it's closed for the season. I'm preparing an application for the Conservation Corps. I have funding to budget them to come up and do trail repair. So I should have that to them hopefully by the next meeting, if not sooner. The Nordic Trails, grooming is ongoing. We're kind of full bore there. All the trails are open. So far, we sold, as of this morning, 1,160 annual trail passes and 135 day passes. I did send out a notice on our Nordic blog, and we're posting it up there. We do have staff that is checking passes. We ask everybody to be considerate. The rules do clearly state you need to have a pass in your possession, whether that's a picture on your phone, a receipt, or the pass itself. So we're just asking users to be considerate to the staff that are doing that.
And Michael, could we remind the public of which areas the passes apply to? I know there's been some questions about where they're applicable.
So a winter trail pass applies for snowshoers, fat bikers, and Nordic skiers, whether that's classic skiing or skate. It applies for the groomed areas that we call the Casper Mountain Trail Center, which are from the Mountain Road all the way over to East End Road and south towards the Mercantile, all of that groomed area, as well as the biathlon area that's over the hill off of East End Road. Any of that's groomed, you have to have a trail pass to use. So,
thank you.
Yeah. And then the last item for the mountain is I've had some inquiries about designating some groomed trails to be able to take your dog on. I just want to begin that discussion now, kind of get people's opinions. Jim Miller had emailed me about his opinions on it. I don't know what a good area would be. You know, there's always the concerns that people aren't gonna pick up after their dogs. Obviously, because it's in the parks, the dogs will have to be leashed. You know, it makes sense to do it in a as wide a trail as you have if we're gonna do this, so that there's ways to move around the dogs when you're skiing. Potential for conflict might be higher than we're expecting, but it's public space. My staff doesn't have a concern about having dogs on their trails, but I do know that other user groups do not want, there's users that don't want snowshoers or fat bikers on the groomed trails, so let's put it at that. So, it will raise some issues, but I would like to, you know, just kind of pitch that out there, and see what they think. One gentleman called about doing it, but he wants to ski through the trees, not on the groomed stuff, and I said, well, as long as your dog's on a leash and you're not on the groomed trails, it's not breaking the rules, so. Other people may not agree with that, but, so, I'm not sure how we open that discussion and determine that. It may require a change in the rules, to do that, because I think it clearly states in there that no dogs allowed on the winter trails.
Yep.
So, and I'm sorry, I forgot your name, but I believe she's here for that exact subject, if you want to
Sure.
go on that.
Yes, if you'd like to have comment on this subject, there's no reason not to. Come on up. Yep, and there should be a button that you can press and it'll go green. There you go. There we go. If you could state your name and address, and then we'd love to hear from you.
Perfect. My name is Emily Ray. I am at 906 South Walcott Street here. I'm a graduate student through the University of North Dakota. I'm here to get my doctorate in occupational therapy. I am a Wyoming native, grew up in Rock Springs, and then call my home Pinedale, Wyoming, which is Sublette County. And I'm an avid skier. My husband was on the U.S. National Biathlon team. You know, my son skis. Our dogs ski. That's like a really big part of our culture in general. And so I trained for ultramarathons and marathons, and was really, I guess, not disappointed, but was just dismayed at the lack of accessibility for individuals to have their dogs on public areas that are groomed for skiing. You know, coming from Pinedale, we have over 20 miles of groomed trails, and they have at least 10 set aside for no snowshoers, no fat bikers, no dogs or anything like that. So they're just pristine, groomed trails that people can hit if they don't want to, you know, have like the divots and everything else. And then, you know, Jackson Hole itself has over 100 trails of groomed trails that allow dogs, fat bikers, and snowshoers. So I proposed that potentially it would be ideal for individuals to be able to have dog accessibility in some areas of these, of your groomed trails, essentially, and stick me in the corner. I don't care where you put me, as long as we can have some area to run. My dog will be on a leash. Obviously, like there are, in Pinedale, they don't have to be on a leash. They have to be under voice control. They have to be, you know, we do like the electronic collars for them. They're friendly. They know how to stay out of the way. And so there are rules and regulations, I guess, with that they have employed, but at least like a small, or at least over half of our portion of trails are accessible to animals. Yeah, so I just thought I'd like to propose to the committee to maybe take that into consideration. There's about 80,000 people in Natrona County, and you're only getting 1,200 individuals that are accessing these trails, which cost quite a bit of money. And so if you open it up to another gateway to be able to raise money, then, you know, I'm more than happy to pay an additional fee for, you know, trail use for the dogs as well. And for Jackson County, or Teton County, excuse me, they limit number of dogs to 2 dogs per person. So, you know, there's definitely a lot of ways that you can kind of limit the accessibility, the poop cleanup, and just the damage to the trails too. You can definitely look at the time that they're grooming and look at when the trail's set up to be able to, decrease the amount of impact that the dogs do have on the trails too. So I guess I just rambled on for a minute, but
No,
if you have any
that's
questions for me.
Sure. You mentioned that Sublette County has this. Do you know maybe what percentage of their trails are
So it's over 50%.
over 50?
And we do not pay for any of our trails. So it's all funded through the county. And then we have the same board as you guys as well. So, yeah, so over 50%, and there's over 20 miles of groom trails. And depending on the season where they do groom, we have more than that too.
Okay.
So,
What do you think on Casper, up there on our mountain, would be enough for the people that like to get out with their dogs? Like what percentage or how much or?
yeah.
Or do you have any particular loops that, in your experience, you think they would be ideal for?
Well, the individual I spoke with had spoke about the Stroop Loop. That's extremely busy. You know, you have dogs on leashes, you have people fat biking, you have skiers. I don't think that would be ideal essentially. The biathlon loop obviously would be more ideal, a little bit further tucked away, but again, that's biathlon training. And so you individuals know the trails a little bit better than me. And I feel like trails that are least accessed, like the groomers too, would probably know what trails people hit. Like a nice big loop would really be nice. Even 5 miles of trail would be sufficient is it about 40 miles of trail that you do have right now?
I actually don't know what the actual number is, and if you throw biathlon into it, that
It's quite a
kind
bit.
of doubles it. It's definitely something we need to discuss. The biathlon area, those trails, I believe, are used considerably less, so there's less traffic. So that might be something to talk with the Casper Mountain Biathlon Club operates that area, so I would want their input into, which trails might be best over there. You and I discussed Struby Loop, and that was really just because it's so wide, that it provides an opportunity. There's Bishops, but yeah, I think it's a discussion that we kind of need to have and see how kind of rules we could put in and how we want to operate that. And if that's without a quorum for the Parks Board, we'll probably need to wait for them to give a thumbs up or down before we propose something to the county commissioners to amend the rules.
Yep.
So we move slow.
That's okay.
But there's a reason for it, so we get everything right. But, I don't see why we can't get something in place somewhere. But when next season starts, we have signs up and the rules in place and everything. But, we might be able to get it. We'll have to see. But Jim Miller, who's absent today, is an avid skier forever. He has some concerns about it, so I'd like to get more of his input. But I'm open to the idea. I think everything should be open to everybody, as long as it works well. It used to be just the skiers were allowed, and then we opened it to multi-use, and now we have snowshoers and mountain bikers, and it sounds like you want to ski on the groom trails versus like the single track Eadsville Trail in those areas.
For skiing, yes, sir.
Yeah.
So I'm comfortable with skiing on snowmobile trails too, just because that's what we have to do for a lot of the races. But it's not like here. It's definitely different than a remote groomed area where you can access quite easily from Pinedale.
Right.
And so having that groomed area would be ideal. But I guess my question for the board would be as well is, are all fat bikers and snowshoers accessible? Do they have accessibility to the entire groom trail system?
They do.
They do.
Yes.
So would it be a possibility, which has worked extremely well in Pinedale, or just Sublette County in general, is that you look at keeping select ski trails designated to skiers only, and then the rest to the rest of the crew, and some for snowshoeing, some for fat biking. You have multitude, you have miles and miles of trail that you could potentially delegate. And so if, Jim Miller did not want to worry about having dog potholes in his ski trail, he can go to a pristine area of the mountain, which is not touched by anyone else other than skiers.
And that thought has crossed my mind because I deal with some of the conflicts. Skiers are like, that fat biker cut a big track through the groomed area and it's not safe and things of that sort. So it is a discussion that we definitely need to have and kind of move forth with a plan that's more appropriate. A lot of times the signage doesn't help. We ask the snowshoers to be on the side of the trail, and a lot of snowshoers don't want to walk in line. They want to walk side by side so they can talk to each other, which puts them clear across the trail, which causes conflict. So, yeah, there's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts, but yeah, we definitely will look into allowing dogs in some of the areas, as well as maybe isolating some trails only for skiing.
Yeah, and I feel like you guys would be able to, have a little bit more income just because we know those groomers cost quite a bit. And so then you can incorporate a little bit more of the community. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Michael, maybe we ought to look at setting up a small work session with some of the vocal participants so we can hammer out some ideas.
Yeah, we could do that. Maybe we'll talk with Jim, but if we do a small group of users, I want it to be quite diversified and include the single track, the snowshoers. Otherwise, you're going to get solid skier opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
And I might be able to look at the passes as well and try and determine how many people are actually snowshoeing versus skiing, because they do check that off on their applications. So.
Yeah. But like you said, limiting conflict between the users groups would be ideal, because I definitely have had unpleasant interactions when I'm up snowshoeing and trying to be as a good citizen as I can, so.
And Emily, we'll get back with you. I have your number in my office, but if you don't hear from me, don't hesitate to call to follow up.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I'll move on to lakes real quick, and I don't have too much. My staff has been taking down some of the lake signs and rehabilitating them. This started because the wooden sign at the intersection Pathfinder Road and Fremont Canyon Road was wiped out, and we temporarily braced it up, and then the wind took it down again. So we've taken it out, taken it in a shop. We're putting new lacquer on signs in both Alcove and Pathfinder, so the traditional parks wooden signs are getting a facelift. So that'll make things look a little bit better. Pathfinder, the campground improvements, contract was awarded to Knife River. And I'm waiting for a date for the pre-construction meeting, but the engineers and the contractor have been reviewing proposed products, boat dock, and picnic shelters and tables and fire rings. So we're progressing there, so that'll be good. And hopefully we'll have all the authorizations from the Bureau Rec and Army Corps of Engineers fairly soon, so they can start construction when the snow clears.
Michael, if it'd be okay, would it be acceptable to have one of us sit on those, the pre-construction meeting, just so we can hear a little bit about what's going on? We
Yeah.
don't need to have any input at that phase, but just personally, I'd love to see what they've come up with.
Yeah, I can, as soon as I have that date, I'll send it out to you, and you guys can decide who should kind of
Okay.
sit in on that.
Thank
Yeah, I
you.
don't have a problem with that. So I know I wasn't here for the last meeting. I did watch the YouTube video. I just want to clarify a little bit, because I was a little confused. We talked about cleaning up a boat ramp and getting it ready. That's actually at the Weiss campground, which is closest to the dam. from Diabase. And man, did they take a lot of sediment off of there. We had a bulldozer out there, and that material was actually used to reinforce the road along the way to the marina, is what we were allowed to do with it, and we used all of it up, reinforcing the edges of that road, so.
Cool.
It was put to good use. And it was actually pretty decent material, surprisingly. One thing that's not on the agenda is the Pathfinder Hog Derby is February 4th and 5th. That's their big ice fishing derby that helps raise funds for the year for the Pathfinder Boat and Fishing Club who operate the marina. And so there'll be quite a bit of people out there. Keep our fingers crossed that road and bridge can be relieved, so maybe they can open up Bishop's Point for it, but at this time, we're not guaranteeing that. I think they plan on having some food trucks out there if they can get there. So I'll be reviewing those applications for that. And that's the extent of what I have.
Thank you, Michael. Bob, any questions for Michael?
Yeah, couple quick questions. The Wyoming Outdoor Grant, did, that was not given to the county, did they give a reason on that, or?
I have not heard. I've
Okay.
asked, like, where did we fall short on our application? I sent that out probably towards the end of November, and I have not heard.
Okay. All right, will there be other opportunities to resubmit if we do learn why, or something, if there's something that?
Only if they get more money.
Okay.
So they had a chunk of money come in that they were to distribute. I think it came from the state level. I'm not sure exact process, but I think it came from some federal funds that were issued to the state, and then the state had to issue so much of it for outdoor activities,
Okay.
and so it was distributed that way.
Okay. And just one other question. We talked about enforcing some of the permits up there and cordiality to staff. Have there been problems, or?
Yeah, so I believe it was last week. I've got a new gal that helps us up there, and she went out, I think it was on a Saturday, and just checked some passes, and there was a lot of, it's in my car, I don't have it, why are you asking me for my pass? You know, it's none of your business, that kind of thing. And so the report I got was there were some people that were very rude about it, and I'm just not going to tolerate that kind of response to my staff. So if that does occur, law enforcement can check for passes and cite tickets if they'd like. But I'll revoke trail privileges if it becomes excessive, because I'm just not going to tolerate having my staff treated that way when we're just trying to make sure everybody's on the same playing field, everybody's doing what they're supposed to, everybody's following the rules. So it sounds a little harsh, but really that's the only way you can operate when people want to start to be aggressive about not following the rules.
Yeah. So it's not an awareness problem. I mean, it's pretty clear.
There might be some awareness problems. Some people may not realize they have to buy a pass, but in most of the entrances, it says trail pass required. Some of the kiosks, it says it's a $50 annual fee or $10 day fee. So we're trying to make sure that everybody knows, and I expect my staff to be considered as well. So they're not gonna continue to respond when people are rude to them. We'll just deal with it through the county sheriff or whatever means we have to, but I just want everybody to be nice.
Sure.
I had an incident last summer. I was on my day off, we were hiking the falls, and a person's little dog was off leash and came kind of towards us aggressive, and I said, your dog needs to be on a leash. They said, well, it's in the vehicle. And I said, well, it's against the rules, and if you don't put them on a leash, I'm going to call law enforcement on it. And they didn't know who I was, So they got rude about it, but I just said, you know, I'm the parks director and these are the rules, so take your dog to the truck and leave. So that's kind of, you know, I just want everybody to be polite
Sure.
when we're interacting, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't have anything else for you, Mike. Any general comments, Rob?
No, just the ones I made previously.
And I don't have any other comments either, so I think we.
You have anything, Dave?
Oh, yes, Dave. You could always enlighten us with some more commissioner wisdom.
I'm happy to see we're moving forward with a lot of projects. It's been a long time coming on a lot of this stuff. I'm glad we're getting the Nordic lot moving this year, the Pathfinder campground taken care of this year. As well as finally getting at least one shelter up at Sheriff's Trap, and that's a start. So, one thing we did do, we finally got accomplished is that all the trees, standing dead trees along down Pomeroy, and I know I brought this up before. We did get those laid down, so that's one less hazard that we have to worry about. We've been talking about, and I'll get with Michael on some of this stuff too, improving some of the roads, some of our locations, and maybe additional parking places. And there's also been some conversation from some of the different biking groups that they would like to do some stuff, and I'd love to sit down with them and sit down with Michael and just kind of get a game plan. Just find out what they're really wanting to do, you know, and see if we can help them out in the process. Some of it, I think we can do without too much trouble, without a whole lot of additional effort. And in other areas, if they're looking at different trails on different places, maybe we can work with them as a county and get something established. And so, I'd love to sit down with them and talk to them about that, because I'm a firm believer in multiple ways where we can develop these things, do things with the outdoor council. They're in support of a lot of that also. There was no reasoning given from the state on the rec grants. I specifically asked Amy about that, and the biggest thing was they had $12 million worth of money, and they had $72 million worth of requests.
Yeah.
I did find out that they had multiple gun ranges around the state that applied for funding, because we were told that the governor specifically wanted to do that, and all of those got canceled because there was some concern about whether that the current administration in Washington would come back after that. And so those just got completely removed. I know that affected Stephanos and a few other places. But we really didn't have any answers as far as why, what, or anything else. And on that particular section, we're not gonna be able to go back. Obviously, there was more money requested than was available, so it's pretty much gonna be used up before there's ever a second option for us. That doesn't mean that there won't be additional funding possibly down the road from different areas. And that is one thing that I plan on working on and see what we can do to get that. And that may be a partnership that we have to work on with either the BLM or some different groups, you know, that work within what we have. Was the Bureau of Rec as far as that goes.
Yeah, there's some potential funding there. Actually, that brings up another thing is, I had a meeting with the BLM fire group as well as the Bureau of Rec about mitigation for fire in the Alcova cabin areas. So there's some funding there that the Bureau of Rec has. So we're gonna try and work with the cabin owners to see if they can manage their individual lots, and then the BLM team would mitigate some of the juniper that's uphill towards Lakeshore Drive that, you know, if a fire was to start there, that would probably migrate that way. So, had our first meeting, probably have another one in a week or two, but we're actually looking at trying to mitigate the fuel management in that area so that it's not as high of a risk for fire if it does start in that area, so.
At least we're starting out on the right side of things this year without the moisture.
Right.
We're a lot better off than we have been in the past, and so hopefully that'll maintain all the way through June like it normally does. And we haven't hit our highest precipitation month, that's not until March, so we'll see what we get. If it keeps coming like it is right now, we'll be in good shape.
Yeah.
And maybe we can build a reservoir.
Maybe.
That'd be nice. Okay, I don't think we have anything else, so